You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Can I really do this? It's what everyone asks at every new stage of life. Sandy Spring Bank has you covered with personalized solutions to buy a house or improve the one you've got, or to grow your business, because that helps our community grow. We'll show you how to save more for the future, wherever it brings you. What's your next financial destination? Sandy Spring Bank. Visit sandyspringbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 406382.
Everyone knows therapy is great for solving problems, but getting therapy has its own problems too, like finding the right therapist, fitting into their schedule, and of course, the cost. Well, BetterHelp can solve those problems. It's totally online and built around your schedule. It's surprisingly affordable too. Connect with a credentialed therapist by phone, video, or online chat, all from the comfort of your home. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% on your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Scottie Scheffler has gone from green jacket to orange jumpsuit in a matter of weeks. He also squeezed a kid in there in the middle of it. So hell of a month for Scottie Scheffler. This is one of those stories that you rubbed your eyes groggy this morning, not really sure if it was real or not, because that's just the nature of social media these days. I barely trust the photo behind me of Scottie Scheffler in an orange jumpsuit. But there's a lot to catch you up on if you're not at all familiar with golf or just catching up to the news. The world number one golfer on his way to Valhalla, where the PGA Championship is being held.
Pulling into work.
Yeah, not the actual Valhalla. That's the name of the golf course. It's apparently hard to get into both. So there was a fatal accident, and that's horrible. Scottie Scheffler, on the way to the club, decides to try to circumvent the traffic jam, gets flagged down by police saying, no, you can't do that. And things get nutty after that. You don't necessarily tell officers no. At least normal people don't. But you would think if anyone would be able to get away with it, maybe the world number one saying, guys, I got a tee time. But all right, so I got to take a beat and really try to break this down for you, because Jeff Darlington was on the scene. And I think this is the first time in recorded history that anyone has actually pleaded to Jeff Darlington help as they're being dragged away in handcuffs. So, Chris, we have some video of Jeff Darlington on the scene, right?
We do.
All right.
We have Jeff Darlington on the scene, and we have him on SportsCenter kind of just painting the whole picture. Maybe we do that first?
No.
He kind of sets the scene.
No. I want to go chronologically here because it's dark. The sun has not come out yet. Scottie Scheffler's in shorts. Scottie Scheffler is driving himself. So here's a video. We're going to play this for you now. Jeff Darlington on the scene.
Guys.
Dude, step back. Back up, or
I'm back.
Step back.
I'm back.
You're game one, right?
Yeah, that's a 15. Okay.
Guys.
What do we do?
I'm staying back.
Here's the thing. Right now, he's going to jail.
Okay.
He's going to jail. And it ain't nothing you can do about it.
This is my whole TikTok algorithm, by the way. It's not usually Scottie Scheffler, but I'm a big, people getting arrested, people videotaping it. So this is, very common to me. I see these every day, and it's never usually Scottie Scheffler on the way to a major. It's usually a random person, but these are my bona fides in this. But this is one of the funniest stories. It's funny. Can we laugh about this?
Yeah, I think we can. I think this is when social media is at its best, and I don't want to say nobody got hurt because there was a fatal accident that basically was the seed to all of this. But this is unrelated. It should be noted and verbalized. Scottie Scheffler was not at all involved with that accident. It just caused a traffic jam, and that's where this whole chaos ensued. But Scottie Scheffler gets hauled away And I guess there towards the tail end of the video,
he's in handcuffs
with the officer saying he's going to jail no matter what. We don't see it in that video, but the message at some point had to have been relayed either by Scottie or by Jeff Darlington that, hey, no, this is a golfer. He's quite good, and he's golfing in this. And the police say it doesn't matter. Now, according to the police, he was. Now, there's some conjecture online that this has already been resolved. By the way that this has been described there, that either by plea or by trial or dismissal, this has already been resolved.
Somebody finally figured it out and was like, we screwed up here.
And Scottie Scheffler is presently on his way back to the course. He's been released, but he was indeed booked. Now, we do have another video of Jeff Darlington almost panting, hair disheveled and all that, describing the scene. And this is courtesy of ESPN this morning on Get Up.
Entering Valhalla Golf Club this morning, we witnessed a car pull around us that was Scottie Scheffler was in the car. To be very clear about the details here, Scottie Scheffler has been detained by police officers, placed in the back of a police vehicle in handcuffs after he tried to pull around what he believed to be security, ended up being police officers. They told him to stop. When he didn't stop, the police officer attached himself to the vehicle. Scheffler then traveled another 10 yards before stopping the car. The police officer then grabbed at his arm, attempting to pull him out of the car before Scheffler eventually opened the door, at which point the police officer pulled Scheffler out of the car, pushed him up against the car, and immediately placed him in handcuffs. Scheffler was then walked over to the police car, placed in the back in handcuffs, very stunned about what was happening, looked toward me as he was in those handcuffs and said, "Please help me." He very clearly did not know what was happening in the situation. It moved very quickly, very rapidly, very aggressively. He was detained in that police vehicle for approximately 20 minutes. The police officers at that point did not understand that Scottie Scheffler was a golfer in the tournament, nor, of course, that he is the #1 player in the world.
Oh, nice close.
Great close. Landed the dismount. Yeah, Chris Cody, you heard correctly. For approximately 10 yards, Scottie Scheffler, the world #1 reigning Masters champion, was dragging a police officer with his car because the police officer
was attached,
was hanging on to the car, physically trying to stop Scottie Scheffler from going into the club and circumventing this traffic.
Now, if there's any golfer, if you said to me a golfer had an incident and he didn't name drop, I could see Scheffler being one of those guys. He seems like a humble guy. Like Rory is saying, I'm Rory McIlroy.
Well, as you know, Scottie Scheffler is the tour's resident bad boy. So this only adds to the legend.
But what did he say? Like, let's just how, like, our guesses in here. Let's get reckless. Like, did he say, I'm a Masters champion? Like, what was his... He had to have given a line of, like, guys, I'm somebody.
World #1 is kind of the flex, but, I mean...
I just won the Masters is strong.
I just won the Masters. Hell of a week, man. Have a week, Scottie Scheffler. There's a lot of people...
I have a child. Would have helped.
There's a lot of golf fans right now really confused as to who they should back in this situation. Do you back the blue or do you back the world #1? I imagine 45 has the button meme on his brain right now. Jess, we've been exchanging memes. This is all happening in Kentucky. I saw the Kentucky governor has already been freezing cold taked because he said something along the lines of, let's show the golf world our hospitality that we're known for and whatnot. What is #1, I'm not on the social medias right now. Is there any other additional news? It looks like, I was thinking this morning that this is by far the funniest way I've ever lost a golf bet, but it looks like he's actually going to play in this thing.
According to ESPN, he was on his way to the golf course about 10 minutes ago, so he may be arriving soon. truly like one of those situations this morning where I saw the Jeff Darlington tweet and was like, oh man, am I being like Jeff Darlingtoned or something?
Yeah.
Like what's happening right now?
Yeah,
but I mean,
BL's the number one.
I obviously would take the police's word with a grain of salt and not entirely rely on their narrative of what happened in this case. So it's nice that Darlington was there and actually could provide like what he saw with his own eyes. I'm curious what Scottie's point of view is, because there was also reports that other golfers had been let through that area earlier. So I'm not exactly sure. You know, we don't really know exactly what happened yet, and if he knew that the people in the yellow vests that were arresting him were police, or if they were just event staff or event security that were confused about where he was supposed to be going. So I kind of want to hear what he has to say, but just generally, what a start to a Friday morning. This is crazy.
I don't really... look, no one could have ever assumed this. Even in a random scenario that I could have painted for you, this is the most unlikely golfer for this to happen to. But also one of the funniest physically, just an everyman appearance from Scott Scheffler. But I do think everyone's in agreement. Yeah, we understand the rules, and we understand that normal folks headed to this golf course can't do this. Scottie Scheffler should be able to.
I want to be the fly on the wall when the officer when some other officer said to the officer, like one officer's feeling good, like, hey,
yeah,
someone tried to pull a fast one, I got him. He's in the back right now, and then they go over with their flashlight and they're just like, dude, like
one of the charges is assault on an officer.
That must have been the attachment.
Felony.
That must have been when the guy attached himself, and all of a sudden he's putting the officer in danger by moving with the. I'm assuming
I saw a report that the officer sustained minor injuries. Again, all of this we know in this country you take with a grain of salt. But Randy Scott's been on top of this, and he's been like Googling every single thing and every legal document that's already available for public consumption. I didn't trust the orange jumpsuit photo because I thought that would be too quick. I can't believe they actually took him out of his golf polo and put him in a jumpsuit for this photo. We have that forevermore.
You think he should get special treatment?
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler, yes, I do believe Scottie Scheffler should have gotten special treatment. Yeah, golf privilege, world number 1 privilege, green jacket privilege.
But if he was world number 2, put him in the jumpsuit. Where do you draw
ranking?
the line? Yeah,
play today in the jumpsuit.
Yeah, you know that there were golfers in that traffic jam, just waiting.
How does Matt Fitzpatrick fare? If he ends up in this situation.
I'm picturing like a Fitzpatrick, like a couple cars back, like, oh, he's doing it. Let me see if it works.
Yeah.
Oh, not doing that. All right.
No, Putnam's there, 10-2. 10-2, just following the rules of the road.
Shane Lowry pulls up behind, like, hey, you got my man there. That's Scheffler.
Using my turning signal.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Does Daly have an exemption for this? If Daly's there, they got to take a photo.
He walked in.
Oh no, he used his golf cart.
He's the cop lights. He's like, I'm gonna pull off
Let me
here.
tell you, I don't think John Daly's driving anywhere these days.
He's using a golf cart.
Will this be the last tournament that Scheffler drives himself to?
Yes.
Like, if you're Scheffler, I've always said to myself,
this the last tournament that he actually shows up to for the PGA.
How does not every rich person have a turtle? Your best friend from high school who didn't really get anything going. You're my friend. You're my assistant. You drive me everywhere. Like, how does everyone not have a turtle?
I have not heard an Entourage reference in so long that I thought you meant a pet turtle. So a little update, Mike, to your point. Michael Eaves just tweeted that a local attorney in Louisville says that, quote, normally you don't give someone being booked an orange jumpsuit.
What?
This
is according to Michael Eaves.
Maybe at some point,
Scheffler
Scheffler embraces it and he's like, "This is my moment. This is huge.
He absolutely
put me in an orange thing. I need that shot."
Look, Scottie Scheffler doesn't have the greatest personality.
This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to him.
He really is the next Tiger. He's now entered the world of infamy right now, and you can just build this bad boy character. The dichotomy of his natural personality.
He should wear orange on every Friday now of a tournament.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered if Chet Holmgren might be a descendant of Abraham Lincoln? Or if a UFC fighter could beat an alien in a fight? You might have not, and that's okay. I probably have thought about the UFC one, to be honest. but Shea Serrano and Jason Concepcion from the Six Trophies podcast have. If you love basketball, and more importantly, if you love fun, you got to listen to Six Trophies, where Jason and Shea serve up the biggest moments from all around the NBA with their brand of unbridled joy, banter, and pop culture side quests. Each week, they hand out 6 pop culture themed trophies for 6 basketball related activities. Stuff like the Denzel Washington and Training Day trophy, given out to the player or team having the best week around the NBA. Or the Lauryn Hill You Might Win Some, But You Just Lost One trophy for the team or player that just can't get it together. Plus a bunch more trophies for all the good, bad, or just plain head-scratching moments from all around the NBA. This playoff season, you want to make Six Trophies your go-to companion podcast. Follow Six Trophies on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Listen ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Dan Le Batard.
It's a 3. The crowd goes into a delusion. Winning in the playoffs, not an illusion. It's a heat check, he's on fire.
Stugotz.
Carry us, Jalen Brunson. Comes up clutch, that's why we won. New York knows you are the best. Not the joke no more.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
We'll bring you more news as this comes in, but there's not much more to this other than totally unexpected, really funny. No one directly associated with this story. Again, there was a fatal accident. Don't want to disregard that, but this is when social media is at its best, when there's just a funny story, and it seems as though no harm, no foul. So we'll figure out, and we'll update you as to whether or not Scottie Scheffler is actually playing in this tournament, because I still got that top 5 ticket, 5% max play.
I think this is a Zion situation though with Scheffler.
Oh, this is
good. This is good for Scottie.
This is
Scheffler.
great for him.
But you know, it's putting people's heads in a pretzel, right?
It was a stressful thing for. It was probably like a stressful thing in his life for like a half hour. But then everything else, like this is like
no, that's a special kind of privilege that I think the world number one kind of deserves. But yeah, just to your point, there's a lot of people right now really confused and glad that they didn't have to come up with an opinion on the fly. They can process this, and hopefully it all just goes away. Nothing's on anyone's record, so they don't actually have a stance on this. But if I was the Crown Prince, I would have posted bail. I would have absolutely done that.
I'm going to text Stugotz right now because I'm just curious his thoughts on this.
Stugotz is not awake. I saw those videos from the Sphere. There is no way Stugotz is awake.
Oh, he was at the Sphere last night? I didn't see this.
I mean, I don't know if he's not here. And Dead & Company were playing at the Sphere, and I saw the videos there. I assume Stugotz is there, and he is in no condition to actually speak with us right now.
Maybe the cops were live guys. Maybe that's what's going on here.
Well, like I said, we'll update you. More news that we get on this. I do want to talk about the NBA last night because the Denver Nuggets slept through a game 6. Yeah, game 6 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves went up to a 2-0 lead, and then it looked like the Nuggets were going to run through them, and the Timberwolves put up more than a fight. And I want to turn your attention to a stat that StatMuse put out there about these Denver Nuggets with Jokic on them. They've never been held by any other team in NBA postseason history under 80 points outside of 3 times. And all 3 times, it's been a Rudy Gobert team that has done that. StatMuse put that out. They tagged Draymond Green in it, which I found very funny. But I do think Rudy Gobert, and we know what happened in Game 2 where he decided to skip that one, and the Timberwolves still won that. He decided to put family first. That's all cool. I do think Rudy Gobert is changing a bit of the narrative around him, not just with another depoy. That other depoy boosts what already probably was entering this season a Hall of Fame resume, but he has bothered Jokic and these Denver Nuggets in ways, and largely that team has too, Jeremy. We were speaking before. This isn't all on Rudy Gobert. They did have a win without Rudy Gobert, but we cannot discount that Rudy Gobert has done something to this Denver Nuggets team that no one else has been able to do, and that is really bother them in ways quantifiably by a large gulf that we've never seen before.
The thing that Minnesota does really well is play team defense that's then anchored by Rudy Gobert. And so a lot of the times in this series where Denver has dominated, it's really been Jokic and Gobert going one-on-one. What was so impressive about the Timberwolves' defensive effort last night was schematically they sort of went back to what was working for them in Game 1 and primarily in Game 2, which is actually a little bit of Towns on Jokic as well, doubling Jokic the moment he started to post up. So not necessarily the moment he catches the basketball, but the moment he starts to post up to sort of make things get to later in the shot clock. And they're so long and physical as a team defensively. With Anthony Edwards at the point of attack, he shut down Jamal Murray last night, completely erased him from the game. And when you have that happening and you're forcing Jokic to be a playmaker, I think it was Porter and Murray were combined 3 for 13 from 3. That's how you eliminate this defense. But when you have Gobert there in the middle, that every moment someone else is driving to the hoop off a pick and roll with Jokic and Gobert's just standing there able to affect things, it really disrupts. And that is how you slow down the Nuggets. It's by putting Jokic in a position where he doesn't necessarily know, am I today the facilitator that he was in Game 5 or Game 4, or am I the scorer? Also what he was in Game 5. That's why it was so spectacular.
And what do we want him to be again?
Well, he's good
at everything.
What he's great at is starting a game as, hey, I'm going to go score 14 points in the first quarter, and then when you make the adjustment to turn me into a playmaker, everybody else steps up and succeeds. Last night, their mix of different types of defense in that first run, I mean, they were down 9-2, Minnesota, and then they went on a 27-2 run, and then just kept it going from there.
Has there been a close game in this series?
There's been, I think, one game decided by single digits, maybe 2, but it is just a bunch of blowouts each way, despite the fact that it's competitive.
Yeah, it's we have a 7-game series with the lack of a memorable game. That's typically in basketball not how it goes. You usually have some close finishes. If the Miami Heat had one of these 7-game series way back in the day, pre-LeBron, against the Atlanta Hawks, where it was a 7-game series and every game was terrible. Just an awful, totally forgettable series. That's not the case here because you have reigning champions in the Denver Nuggets. Champions that we haven't really seen tested in these ways. You'd like to see a close finish in Game 7, but the way that sport is going right now, I don't think we're actually going to get a good finish right now. Everyone's anticipating that the Nuggets go through here. I guess I also subscribe to the T-Wolves have to suffer a bit more.
I saw a graphic that at one point, obviously it was when they were down 0-2, they had a 0.8% chance of winning this series.
Yeah, I got in when they were down 0-2.
Nice.
But in my defense, I had no idea they were down 0-2. I thought they were down 0-1 because that's how little I'm paying attention. No,
you were doing it. You weren't doing it there?
I swear. It's just when you compare what's going on in hockey,
my God,
which hasn't even had
last night, dude.
Which last night was great, but the hockey playoff hockey is great no matter what. But in recent years, this is probably one of the weaker NHL postseasons. There haven't been like these major epic overtime games, these huge changes in momentum. Although last night we started to see that, and last night was a game to remember. No, I'm living it. I'm being honest with you. Yeah, I go through my phases. And next year, if the Miami Heat improve a roster, or having a team that had no shot in it after being in the conversation for so long did probably contribute to my lack of interest in this, and that team not really caring for the regular season either contributed to this. But I'm telling you, the sport's just not doing anything for me. That's honest. It's not a bit, and if it's doing something for you, I'm not knocking you for it. I just have bandwidth, and there are other things right now that are taking my attention.
I do think this Game 7 between these two teams, when you talk about like your want of like dogs in a series, when you have
wanting to see like a champion up against the ropes,
when you have Nikola Jokic, who last night didn't play the fourth quarter and just stood the entire fourth quarter on the sideline, hands behind his back, staring with a blank face at the action that's going on. Him as defending champion.
Was that like purposeful, you think?
Oh, yeah. I think he was just like really angry at what happened with his team and just standing there in disbelief, sort of trying to figure out what Minnesota's doing. And then you have Anthony Edwards as a guy who apparently after Game 5 spoke to, it was either a security guard or an usher at the game in Denver and said, we'll see you for Game 7. And then after the game, as they're dominating, is holding up 7 fingers saying, hey, we forced this Game 7. This is a juggernaut matchup going into Game 7. It's fun basketball.
And it's face of the league stuff and all that. But here's my experience watching these games. It's never got the main sound on. Hockey's got the main sound on. Doesn't matter, Panthers or not. I just find the hockey playoffs more compelling. But I got an eye on these games, and if there is a close finish, then that gets a main screen treatment. And there's only been once this entire postseason where I've shifted a game to the main screen, and it was that crazy finish with Anthony Davis falling into the Nuggets bench. That feels like several months ago. But that was a great finish. That was a great second half, and it caught my attention. And I think part of the reason why I'm not really that invested in the NBA postseason is I'm not getting the games that actually hook me in and see all the storylines. So what the NBA did so well in its postseasons was it was about drama. It was about those facials. It's not like hockey. It's not like the NFL. You can see these players emote. And I think having Jokic give you that lasting image and Anthony Edwards doing the stuff with the crowd, and that's legend-building stuff there, telling people at the Denver arena, I'll see you for a Game 7. That's stuff that does give this some juice. It's why I don't mind all the Knicks talk that our show has done, because the Knicks have actually provided the theater so far this postseason, and they've done so with some memorable games. They probably played the more entertaining games out of the bunch, and I'm just starved for something that could stick its hooks into me and drag me into this sport. It's just been devoid of that, but here come the Knicks.
I would think the basketball that you get this weekend, when you start with Game 6 tonight between the Knicks and the Pacers, and then you have Game 7 over the weekend, these should be two incredible games.
If there's a Game 7.
Well, no, not that Game 7. I mean, well,
you mean
the Game 7. I'm talking about the Timberwolves
Okay.
Game 7, not the Knicks Game 7 that may or may not happen. But with the Timberwolves and Nuggets, like you have, like you said, guys who are potentially faces of the league there. You also have Oklahoma City and Dallas, where you have a number 1 seed up against the ropes again against Luka, who's been spectacular. It's crazy to think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is actually older than Luka. But that's that's how young the Thunder are as a team, that you see Luka doing what he's doing. It's fun.
It has been fun, Mike. I'm shocked. I've been locked in. There was a fart that galvanized an entire New York Knicks locker room. This has been the best NBA playoffs ever.
Sound the trumpets. It's horse racing time. So saddle up for action with DK Horse, an official DraftKings affiliate. Right now, new customers who downloaded the DK Horse app can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250. Just deposit $25 or more and complete the playthrough requirement. Wager on your favorite horses and then watch the races live right in the app. Download the DK Horse app now. New customers get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when they opt in with code DLS. Only on the DK Horse app.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus, 21 plus in certain states. To open or access an account and a resident of a state where DK Horse is available. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Match calculated on first deposit. Up to a maximum of $250. Deposit requires 2-time playthrough of settled wagers within 168 hours. Bonus release in $25 increments. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at dkhorse.com.
Don Le Batard.
For weeks, months even, during the regular season, I wondered aloud what Kevin Stenlund did. And then about 3 weeks ago, it hit me.
Stugotz.
He gives him one of these, and he gives him one of those.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I mean, what they said about Scheffler is true. No one could drive like him on tour. Not a single one. We learned that John Daly just withdrew, and he was citing a thumb injury, Roy. Is that right?
Yes,
I don't think it was a thumb injury. I think he just got his gimmick infringed on, and he realizes there's no point for him to be there anymore because there's a new tournament bad boy. Scottie Scheffler, be thy name.
Shouldn't he technically be disqualified?
You would think that there was some sort of bylaw that you can't get arrested, but if you're the world number 1, I mean, he's on a historic run right now, and this is the thing that just builds legend.
I feel like the world...
This is, like you were saying, this is a Zion thing. This is great for him.
I feel like world number 98 is thinking, if this happened to me, I'd be arrested. I'd be in jail. The tournament would have never been delayed.
Taylor Gooch is like, what
All right, so more on this story as it develops. Let's talk about some puck that happened last night with an eye on tonight. Great slate tonight, 2-game slate, 2 teams that are down 3-2 that staved off elimination in Game 5, trying to force a Game 7.
Roy, you nervous?
No.
But we saw this scenario play out last night, a team that was down 3-0 in the Carolina Hurricanes. And I got to tell you, especially with how that game got off, I thought for sure we were seeing a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers showed some supreme guts over there for the Carolina Hurricanes. It might be time to really shake that roster up because you've now – this core's been together a little bit, and they've got some nice young players there too. They've got some questions to answer about Ginsel, who I don't know, guys. That I never saw it with Jake. I thought he was a byproduct of what was going on in Pittsburgh. I know he got frisky and involved in some plays, but you needed a talisman goal scorer for the Carolina Hurricanes. You would assume he'd be the guy playing on that line with Aho. He just wasn't him. And he just had these stretches where he'd totally disappear. And I don't know if they actually keep him because he didn't sign that extension. Hell, there's talk that he might find himself back in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, you've got questions to answer regarding your coach because Brendan Moore's been there for a long time, and now we're taking a step back. They got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, although he didn't feel that way last year, and now a step shorter, and they're gone. So no matter what, we get an original 7 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Man, you talking about the Rangers, though, they obviously did not start off well, but Chris Kreider, that was some 94 Rangers stuff right there. That was Mark Messier stuff.
9 real-time minutes that he had a natural hattie.
Yeah.
I think
crazy.
Roy, correct me if I'm wrong. Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky are the only other hockey players to have a hat trick in one quarter or one period.
Yes.
I think I heard that on the broadcast. That's insane company to be a part of.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And Chris Kreider was acting like it was no big deal.
His post-game interview, he was like, "Yeah, that was crazy."
Yeah, it was crazy. Like he acted like he'd been there before, which isn't really something that. Although he is historically one of the greatest Rangers of all time when you look at his point production, and he needed moments like that to kind of solidify it the way that Messier has talked about. It does kind of feel like 94 around the city of New York right now with the Knicks approaching their first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. And I know that the Rangers have made it to the Stanley Cup Final. They played the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, lost. That a famous Game
2014,
7
right,
overtime.
Roy?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Game 7, right?
Alec Martinez.
No, Williams.
Alec Martinez scored the game-winning, cup-winning goal in overtime.
Okay, yeah. So Williams didn't add to his legend in that one, but they haven't lifted the cup since 1994, famously. And it's got to be a hell of a time. I did see video that we're going to play right now of some Rangers fans celebrating their win, and we all remember what Toronto fans did.
This always works out well.
Yeah, we know what Toronto did last year after they got through Tampa into the second round. They chanted, "We won Florida." It didn't work out for them. Let's see what the Rangers fans chanted.
I don't know what you guys hear there, but what I hear there is, "We want the easier team. We're scared of Florida. We're scared of Verhaeghe." I mean, what are they doing?
Bunch of cowards.
I don't think they're.
We are cowards.
I know that we got to have a take on this. I think we can all openly acknowledge there's a bigger sports rivalry between New York and Boston than there is between New York and South Florida.
Did they not see
sunrise?
Did they not see the internet last year though? It's just. I get it. I get why they're.
I don't think they saw the internet last year. I think that we're internalizing Toronto Maple Leafs fans chanting, "We want Florida."
They didn't buy the shirts,
and we're vastly overestimating the reach of that one thing that irked us.
Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. No, can we look at? I don't want to overlook and assume the Panthers are going to win this, but can we look at this from the Panthers' perspective, the Rangers-Carolina series? Because I think Carolina coming back from 3-0, down 3-0 to win that series, that momentum would have been hard to overcome. I actually think this works out for Boston or Florida. The Rangers winning, their momentum now, yes, you have momentum from last night's game, but I think if Carolina wins that series coming back down 3-0, I think that momentum is hard for either of these teams to overcome.
I told myself I wasn't going to look ahead because you got to kill the Boston Bruins tonight. Brad Marchand is coming back. That's going to be an electric barn over there. Barn, by the way, that the Florida Panthers have won 4 straight.
Yeah.
They're 4-0 in their last 4, going for 5 on the trot. They're very comfortable on the road.
And Ryan Lomberg is probably going to be back in the lineup.
I saw reports that Cousins and Lomberg are both going to be back in the lineup
Just
right
making
now.
switches?
So Lawrence,
been asking for it.
That means Lawrence is gone.
Pozo is not going to be in the lineup.
Pozo should be in the lineup.
I would think Lorenz is the only one staying, right? And it would be Okposo and who else has been on that fourth line?
So
Stenlin. Wait,
it's
no,
not
so it would
pronounced
be Lorenz.
Okposo, right? Because I always hear people just go Okposo. Like the K is almost
Okposo.
I understand I understand that there's a K in it.
Opozo.
But I just never hear the K sound being pronounced with his name. But he was practicing with the first line yesterday, and he goes, Gretchen, I'm not necessarily with that big body. This is a former first liner in the league. He has a pretty huge assist in this series already. He's been playing pretty well, although a lot of Panther fans have an affinity for Ryan Lomberg and Nick Cousins. He gets under people's skin. I do like that Cousins is out there. I'd rather Oposo than Ryan Lomberg in this scenario.
You go Cousins over Lomberg? I'm with you on Oposo, but I'd rather see Lomberg over Cousins.
I think Cousins.
We are getting in the weeds.
Well, last year he had some big goals, so obviously Cousins would be in there.
Everyone remembers. Everyone remembers Lomberg's winner that forced a Game 5 against Tampa Bay. They staved off elimination in overtime. It was an unlikely game winner. Then they go on to force the Game 6, and they lose in 6 to Tampa. But I think Cousins is probably the more consistent goal-scoring threat of the two, and I think he's a bigger agitator. I saw Brad Marchand. I don't know if we have video of that. Brad Marchand spoke to the media, and there was a kind of an honor amongst thieves. I don't think that the takeaway from the media from Brad Marchand's comments, which was basically like, look, you try to get an advantage trying to hurt a player here. He said the quiet part out loud, but I think that it was a little misinterpreted because I kind of read between the lines there that he made a rush on an injured player. He was trying to get one
that was
in on Sam Bennett.
That was going to be a late hit.
Here's my whole thing on Sam Bennett. Did he get a rabbit punch in on Brad Marchand? Yes. Did Brad Marchand go in for a dirty hit and he miscalculated? Maybe he was a little loopy beforehand. Yeah, Sam Bennett saw that happening in slow motion and decided, well, if this guy's going to miss me, might as well get my shot in. I don't think that punch concussed him.
No, it was the hit on Stenlin.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I think all of this has been overstated, and all of this has really stemmed from Game 2, where Jim Montgomery realized, oh shit, I got nothing against these guys. Let's just muck it up. And then Pasa had to cash a check for Pat Maroon, and the Panthers responded in kind. Now, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, what I personally like is finally they're starting to talk about winning hockey games and things that they can do on the ice that is not just gooning it up over there to actually try to win this game. And it seems as though the series has settled down and it could stop being this just crazy, wacky narrative over there. I do expect the Florida Panthers to win this game. If they don't, I understand everyone wants to get nervous. Headed into that Game 7, I won't be nervous. But if in that Game 7 the Bruins pull ahead early,
then I'll be nervous.
Then I'll be nervous. But I do think that the Florida Panthers are the much more talented team.
I'll wait until the third period to get
the much maligned Morgan Geekie is not a top line center. Like we were saying it the other day, Lundell would be the clear number one center on this Bruins team. I just don't think the Bruins are all that good. I think they've overachieved. I think Jim Montgomery has done a tremendous job throughout the regular season. I question some of his tactics in the postseason. But look, he's gotten this thing to 6. They're not going to create quality chances on their own all that often. You play a clean game. You don't come out sleepwalking. And you should be able to beat this team. You're a class above them.
And I don't expect the Boston Bruins defense to do what they did in Game 5 either. I mean, they're not going to hold the Panthers to as little shots as they did.
They've done it twice, Roy. They've done it twice.
Not this time. I don't think they're going to end up doing it this time.
Well, I understand you don't want it, but they've shown you fairly recently. And I don't think I saw people saying, "Well, we got goalied." No, we didn't. Swayman, we didn't get goalied in Game 1. We didn't get goalied in Game 5. Those were clean looks that Swayman stopped.
Game 5 felt kind of like he wasn't making all-world saves. Like, he makes a handful of saves. That's the NHL. Bob was a better goalie on the night, I felt. We stick
easily
with Bob, right? This game, obviously.
Yeah.
The Rangers went with the backup to start last night, but...
Yeah, both teams are going to stick with their goalies.
Igor played.
Didn't they start?
No, Shesterkin was there.
Yeah, Shesterkin. Yeah, he played.
I know he was in late. They didn't put him in. My bad. That's my bad.
No, they didn't do the backup. You don't take Igor Shesterkin.
That's why I was like, no. I thought they did. My bad.
Yeah.
That's my
fault.
fault.
We are looking ahead, though, I to your point, if Carolina found a way to win a Game 7 that they had forced from being down 3-0, that's a lot of momentum that you're running up against, and that is a galvanized unit. However, aside from that stuff, all that intangible stuff, I do think that Carolina probably presented a trickier matchup for the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Finals, just because we know that those games would be in the mud, and those would probably be 1-goal differential type games. Whereas, even though there's more skill talent on the New York Rangers, and they found a way with these defensive pairings with their nice rotation, have a puck mover on every defensive line, a lot like the Panthers in that they're not leaning on a defensive unit more than others, so all of these guys remain fresh. They got a really good goalie in Shesterkin, and it's certainly a better goalie than Carolina had, better goalie situation there, but I actually would favor the New York matchup over Carolina. That's not me calling my shot. I think I've called it several weeks ago, in that I think that this team here in Florida is as good a chance as this market's ever had to lift the Stanley Cup. With an eye over to the Western Conference, boy, that Dallas team is deep.
Yeah.
Real deep. Although they approach things a different way. They leave some guys on the ice a little long. When you have when you have Miro over there, I understand. But 2 big pivotal game 6s. I wanted to go to TD Garden tonight because I have a feeling the Panthers walk out of that building with that dub, but knowing that it's a Rangers, I got to save for that game time budget in the next round because my ass will most definitely be in MSG.
What are you thinking? Game 5, Game 2, Game 1? What are you thinking?
It depends on the schedule.
Yeah, it's got to see.
Well,
elimination game, definitely.
Let's eliminate Morgan Geeky tonight.
That's true.
Yeah.